Hey guys, today I'm going to be installing a tonneau cover by Rough Country on my 2018 Dodge Ram SLT 4x4. This has got the 6.4 bed on it. I know some of them have the 5.3 or 5.7 beds, but this is a quad cab. It's not the crew cab, so I've never done one of these before. It's sort of raining out now, so I might have to back the truck up and put it in the garage a little bit better so I don't get soaked out there. But it'll be my first tonneau cover ever to go on one of these vehicles. This is a hard shell tonneau cover. I'm not particularly sure if the soft shells are any easier than the hard shells or vice versa, but this is a truck right now. I might have to do some moving around and try to get the ass end in the garage. It might make it easier, but I'm going to show you which. This is basically the model of the one that I'm going to be installing today, and this one here was 600 and change, I want to say. I really wasn't planning on spending that much, but after looking at all the videos and the process of doing it and what I actually want to keep in the back of the truck, I figured the hard shell would be the best bet. It has a better locking mechanism, and it's not like people can just stab it and rip it if they really wanted to get into the back of your truck. So alright, without further ado, I'm going to set up this camera. We'll open this box, see what's inside, and then get ready for the install. It's got straps on it, and they even taped the straps down, so you can't just stick something in to cut it because the straps are taped. The box is actually in real good condition, so I don't expect this thing to have any sort of damage on it. But yeah, I've never seen straps that actually have tape on them. Let me get something else here. This is a really nice packing job. Put a lot of additional stuff in here to keep this thing nice. These are the rails that will go on each side of the truck bed. They definitely didn't want this thing getting messed up in transport. They had a lot of these on Amazon, not so much the hard shells, but the soft shells, and they all kind of had like off brand names to them. So Rough Country I've heard of, so I actually picked up their floor mat set as well for the inside. The floor mat set was like $140 versus WeatherTech's, which was like 230 or 240, so hopefully the weather, the mats that go on the truck are just as good as this tonneau cover, because this tonneau cover actually looks really, really good. Right now I'm just trying to separate everything so I can lay shit out over there. This is the foam stripping that goes on the front of the bed. This actually makes the seal watertight when you put this tonneau cover on for the front portion of it. The back portion has a built-in rubber cleats on it. These are your drain hoses. I'm not sure if you need 2 or 1. The one in the video I watched, I want to say the guy only put on 1. But this should be all of your hardware that's needed. They give you a little wrench. They give you some more adhesive, sticky, like a rubber gasket there. These are some little lockdown, twisty things. These are the main lockdowns that I believe I watched the guy put where the spaces are. They look slightly different from his. This might be a newer model, I don't know, the one that he did. Here's some like track rail. I got to admit, some of the pieces that I'm seeing in here, I don't know if I've seen in his videos. So, here's more of the ones like I've seen him use. There's some more kind of looks like track, I don't know, setup things. And they give you a little Allen wrench. So that's what's in the box. Some of these things I don't think I've seen on his video, so I'm definitely going to have to look at the instructions and see what some of that stuff is. But on the first portion of his video, he sets up the tracking. That was like number 1. He puts his 2 side tracking pieces on, and then he takes off from there. So that's what we're going to start doing. Once again, I'll speed up the video because this is going to take me longer than him because he's obviously done it a few times. So with that being said, I'm going to reset the camera up towards the back of the truck, and yeah, we'll go from there, see what happens. Okay, so of course my setup is totally different from what he did. I don't know why, but so I had to find the front sides of these rails, and then I had to slide these rail, what do they call them? Support plates. So this is a support plate. So you got to find the front side of the rail, which is going to be the side. This one here, I already put something else on to drain it. But there's actually a side that doesn't have a cap on it. The back side, the rear side, already has the cap on it. So you find that. You take this support bracket And basically they got like a little foam pad here. You got to work it around, but basically you find where it lines up in the grooves and you slide this support bracket on, and just make sure you squish down that little foam pad that they have stuck there. Then basically they tell you to put on, which was already installed on mine, is this lock, what do they call it, the locking latch. They say install this from the rear side, but this was already on there, so there is another one that I'm not sure if I need that. Maybe I do have to put the other one on now, but it didn't say anything about this coming on, so I'm assuming that's the locking latch. Then it tells you on this step, where on the one I watched for the video, the guy puts it on last, but it looks like it's a different setup. So this right here is where the drain tubes go. So there is 2 drain tubes. So basically you take your drain tube, it's got pretty much the same design as what's on there, and you can just squish them on. The other one I had to tap with a rubber mallet to get it in, but now the drain tubes are on this front portion. So you'd probably do this, because this, once you have this mounted up on your truck, you probably won't be able to pull this drain tube out, because you got to pull it forward, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be almost right up against, if not right up against, the bed of the front portion bed of the truck. So that's the step I'm on now, and I'm reading through this. So good thing I'm reading through this, because it's not the same video as I watched. So as we go, I'll do step by step on what I'm doing here. But those are the steps I got completed right now. Alright, so the next step here, it's showing to take one of the rubber strips and cut it into 6 or more pieces. Some truck bed edges are not flat, so you need to stick the rubber strips on the side rails, upper or lower edges. So basically this is going to be more of a fit up thing. My truck bed rails look pretty flat, so I'm not sure if I need to use these or not, but once I put the rails up against the truck, I'll be able to see if there's any gaps or not. But it's basically saying to use that rubber. So there's a thin rubber adhesive strip over there that I could cut up and I guess fill any sort of gaps or whatever, depending on your truck bed's edges. So that's the next thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rails, I'm going to try to line them up on the truck and make sure I don't have any super big gaps. It don't look like I should have any, but we'll see. So there is slight lifting and stuff, but I'm assuming when I clamp, I'll be able to tighten that down. Only because this is like a cheap, I want to say a cheap insert liner, and it does have flex in it and bows and stuff. So as we go, I guess I'll figure out more, but I don't really want to stop putting those strips all over the place until I figure out, once I clamp this on, how it's going to fit. So alright, so the next step is placing on clamps. One in the front, one in the back, and then basically, because this is the longer bed, I might actually have to do one in the middle. They give you another clamp they actually give you 6 clamps. So I want to say it was for this bed, unless it's the 6-point something bed, which that actually is what this is, 6.4. So with the 6.4, they're telling you to use a middle bracket in there. So what I'm going to do now is start fitting this up as best I can. I'm going to tighten these down, but I'm not fully going to like really super grog them down, only because basically from the video I watched, even though it's different than this setup, it's probably very similar in the setup, is that he's adjusts it later on. So basically he loosens up his clamps and then he bangs down on the rails and stuff to get the tonneau cover to fit correctly, in other words. So I'm not going to like totally grog these down, but that's the next step that I'm going to do right now. I would suggest you don't use the wrench they supply. When you put it on the actual nut, you have major play in it. I'd probably just use the correct size. I'm just trying to do this with the tools that they gave me to see if it works. And if you notice what I'm doing, sorry for the leg shot before, but until you get like one on, you got to try to hold this thing up so it don't fall off. But I'm pushing down on the bracket as I'm tightening these things up. There's little grooves, and I'll explain it in the camera in a minute. I'll grab one of the extra ones. But as I'm pushing down hard to avoid having any possible gaps, because there is a rubber seal on the other side of this, or a foam seal I should say, that I'm squishing down to prevent any leaks as I'm tightening these brackets down, which are holding them to the truck. So eventually, I'm really gonna want to grog these down more. But this wrench here, like I said, I don't know if it's just mine or not, but it sucks. It's got too much play, and the other side is too small. So, yeah, really push down and tighten these things up as you're going. I'm going to explain this clamp to you real quickly. Basically, you got to loosen it up. Free it. It has a channel that it locks in on this other bracket. There's like a little groove right down bottom here where I'm tapping. There's a groove that fits into. This locks into the frame of the rail, and then this side here is the side that pinches against the wall of your bed. So as you're tightening this is pulling together, and it needs to stay locked in like that. It needs to stay locked into that bottom groove, and everything's got to stay together, so when it pinches, it's, you know, you don't want it overlapped like that. You want it up in that groove. So you're actually finagling it a little bit while it's on the truck, but it's not too hard. Once you start tightening down, it stays together. And then this side, like I said, rides a channel that's hitting the inside of your truck bed, and then this is just clamping together and holding it together to hold the rail on. So just a little info, helpful info. All right, I'm gonna try this side now. That side's pretty good. We'll look at the edges later. I'll zoom in on it, but I want to try to make this rail exactly the same spot as I put the other rail. Now there is a little bit of give and play. Obviously you gotta either eyeball it or measure it up with a tape measure. I'm just eyeballing it right now. And once again, I didn't grog anything down super heavy. So if I have to adjust later, I'll still be able to adjust and then grog down afterwards. This is just to basically get the frame up right now, get the tummo cover on, and then basically adjust from there once the tummo cover is actually on the truck. Because without it being on, you just really don't know, exactly if you're perfect or not. So. All right, step 5. If the truck bed side rails are higher than the front edge of the bed, stick the foam seal tape on the front edge of the bed. Well, the problem I have is my bed liner is kind of not great. So I'm going to stick that tape up there just because I want to make sure it's a watertight seal. So I'm going to do that next. So what I'm going to do first is run inside, get some alcohol. I'm going to wipe that bed rail with alcohol so I can put the adhesive on this. Okay, so if you have a wife or a girlfriend that lives with you, isopropyl alcohol is usually in the house and available. Unless you're one of those guys that have those little alcohol wiping pads, which I'm not one of those guys. So. Alright, now we're into the big stuff. Place the tonneau cover over the front end of the truck bed. Ensure the cover is even on all sides and sits firmly on side rails. Yes, now I get to place the tonneau cover on the rails. I just got to figure out top and bottom now. Alright, so that's the next step I'm going to go for, grabbing the tonneau cover, which it isn't that light, so here we go. Adjust the front support plate 1F to correct position. Insert the front bolt into the holes on the cover front panel and support plate. Then tighten plastic nut under the front support plate. Alright, so that front support plate, basically they had me put it on, but I'm going to have to adjust it to line it up with a hole. Basically there's a hole in this tonneau cover that I got to put that bolt through. Make sure the flat washer and spring washer are all placed on bolt before screw the plastic nut on. Okay, cotter pin that I got to put through the top and then come through the bottom here. So right here, this pin here, this is another lock pin for this guy, which is now on the wrong side of this. So it didn't explain that very well, but this needs to line up with those two, and then there's another two that goes on the back here. So basically this came with one set on it, but it needed two sets. I'm hoping it didn't need a third. I don't think it needed a third, but so this bracket here is going to have to come off. This is going to have to get slid down to there, and then I'm going to have to put the additional one on here. So remember that as we're going. This is a mess up, but I'm going to get those front bolts in now because I can still line that up and get those on. All right, I'm going to try it this way first. I could get a light, but I just folded the thing back, and I'm going to go put these nuts, washers, and clips on those front bolts, but I think I got to realign. I know I got to realign the front brackets because it didn't say that you were lining them up for this process here. So I'm going to take the front brackets off too, because now the brackets that slide are in the wrong spots. They should make a better video on this. This was not explained in the video I watched. All right, so now I got to put the brackets back on and then adjust the brackets back here to make them work. Yeah, a simple video. I don't know why this one was so much different from the 5.7 bed, but once again, it could be an upgraded model. I don't know, but he didn't have all this bracket problems and stuff like that. He had spacers that showed him where to put the brackets and everything, which once again, I don't know if that would have been dead on, especially for the 2 pins or 2 bolts that had to go through the front. I didn't see him do that process, but 2 bolts had to go through the front, so those brackets needed to be aligned perfectly, so you definitely didn't want them tight. You put the 2 bolts through, and then all these other brackets need to make sure that these clips, which are going to lock down the unit, are in the correct position, which that didn't explain that well either, so. Ay. Never do stomach at the gym and then attempt this. Sucks trying to sit back up. Alright, so we're making some progress. Don't tighten the stuff down until you're positive. That's why I didn't grog anything super tight, because I knew I might have to take stuff off, but definitely have to move stuff around. I'll go back in there with the camera later and show you how the pins go to a line that come down. They work off cables, so there's a pin section in the middle section. It's got two locking pins, and then this back section is going to have the same thing, 2 locking pins. So all this brackets are loose right now. I'm going to slide these guys are on right now. I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so these 2 brackets here, basically, this is the tail end. I know it says don't slide anything on the tail end, but at this point, it still works. So in my case, I have to manipulate a little bit of this bed liner because it's such a cheesy bed liner. It doesn't fit super snug. So I had to push in on the bed liner a little bit, and then basically you can slide these brackets on both sides. And now when I flip the tonneau cover over, I can line these brackets up perfectly, tighten them down, and then I'll push down on these rails again and then snug up on these last 2 brackets here. Just get them in position, and then you can lift it up and tighten them up later. So I'm getting a little bit of an alignment issue here. If you can see how this is peaking at the top of this one. And this guy here is already on the slope. So what I'm going to have to do is probably loosen up on those two top nuts up there, the ones that have the bolt that go through the tonneau cover, and then basically try and shift this thing over some, because it's a little off. I might be able to just whack it with my hand and try to bump it over, but I don't know. Yeah, that actually worked. And that's locked. So now I can tighten up on those last two brackets that I have in here, and then basically push down on this edge. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it. I think the cover's on. Let's see how this tailgate shuts. All right, tailgate shuts. It seals. I don't feel any gaps. It's got the rubber or foam thing back there. Take a walk around the unit. So, hard to see, but there is a lip, this whole lip, but it seals on that foam gasket. So foam gasket seals it. There might be a little space there that I can stick a piece of foam in. Looks like that's a gap. This side here. And once again, there's a little tiny space there. But considering this is my first install, everything seems to be sealed pretty good. Now, if we open it up, yeah, I can see a little light. You see that little light thing there? That's a gap. That side really doesn't have a gap. At least I don't see too much light coming from there. And all on the rail, I don't see light coming in anywhere on the rails, so not too shabby. I can plug that up with a little piece of, I have extra of that adhesive stuff that I could put there, but tailgate shuts no problem, looks good. The overall cover, I'm really impressed. I like it being the hard cover. And I mean, if anybody wants to really break into something, they're going to. But this just prevents somebody from just randomly coming over to your truck and, you know, with a little blade or something, cutting into it and then grabbing whatever you have in the back. They'd have to use some kind of pry tool or really, you know, get up here, which is going to break the whole thing anyway, so. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. I think we did it within about an hour. And that was me having to stop and read the instructions and stuff because the video that I watched didn't actually work out correctly. But it might actually even help with fuel mileage and stuff, now that you don't have the drag of the bed, which I'm still not sure if that's a proven fact or not, that wind drag. I mean, I would assume it, you know, would make sense, but alright, so that's it in a nutshell for that project. Hopefully that helps. If you guys have any questions, concerns, leave them in the comments.